This me. Brake boost it. Oh no. Oh no, it's not putting the power down well at all. Oh. 0 to 100 in seconds. There is a massive blind spot in this car, so that's a real issue, and a really actually hyper aggressive diffuser down the bottom to split the air like a bloody action superhero. I guess that's where the name comes from. All right, guys, I know what you're probably thinking, and the answer is yes. I actually did get a haircut a couple of days ago. I know I look pretty good. No, but in all seriousness, I know you're probably thinking, what the hell am I standing next to? Well, this is a KGM Actyon. Now, KGM are formerly known as Ssangyong, and in the interim, they were known for a little while as KGM Ssangyong. Now, we've already had a look at their other mid-size SUV, the Torres, but today, I'm gonna be taking you for a full tour of this, the KGM Actyon. Of course, I'm going to be going through all of its wacky design quirks on the exterior, all the cool interior features that are actually quite luxury. They kind of surprise me. Of course, we're going to be talking about the powertrain. There are some things about this car that I'm not exactly a fan of, but we will get into that today. I'll go for a drive as well, give it lots of sauce, and of course, I will performance test this, see just how quick its 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is, and then I'll end on my final thoughts. What do I think of the KGM Actyon? Do I think it's worth your hard-earned casherinos? Let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk price now of the KGM Actyon. Now, there are two specs available in Australia. Either this one, the K50 spec, which does come in at $47,000 drive away, which by the way is significantly more money than the KGM Torres, which is a slightly smaller mid-size SUV. Or you can go for the higher spec, the K60, which adds a few features like a 360 surround view camera, a panoramic sunroof, and a wireless phone charger. And that one comes in at $50,000 drive away. So you are paying $3,000 extra for just a few minor features. So in my opinion, the value pick of the bunch is actually this, the K50. Now I have got it here in this, what they call latte greige color. And if you ever been to an Asian country, you'll know this is the color of the latte that they serve. I'm not being disparaging, I'm just being honest. That's my experience with coffee in Asian countries. But coffee ramble aside, it's a classic Melburnian trait. Let's get into the way that this thing looks, because I actually think it looks really awesome, especially from the front. First of all, you get these really cool LED daytime running lights there with integrated indicators. You do get some more LED lights down the bottom here, which are integrated with this kind of aggressive black surround there. And you get this really cool lighting signature that goes across the entire front of the car. Actually makes this thing look a lot more premium than the Torres. You get this pretty small grille, and I think this thing here is where the front-facing camera would normally be on the K60 spec. And you get this pretty aggressive-looking black splitter down the bottom with your radar for your adaptive cruise control. You also do get a camera up the top there. You'll see on both sides, you do get this black body kit, which is actually inspired by those old Willys Jeeps from World War II, and the parachute would attach to these points here. Now, definitely do not try that at home. These are completely fake and plastic. They will not hold a parachute or this car. I thought I would just say that just in case any of you were going to try that for whatever reason. And I actually think the bonnet looks really cool and aggressive. Gives it a bit of an off-roady look, even though this is a front-wheel drive. But let's check out the side. Okay guys, coming to the side, first thing you'll see are these pretty decent looking 20-inch alloys there. They are wrapped in some good rubber. Michelin Primacy Tour AEST, really good rubber for NVH and reducing the noise from the road. And I do like this kind of diamond cut alloy design there. It looks quite cool with KGM spelt in the middle. Now, of course, you don't get any side mirror cameras because this thing only comes with a reversing camera, but you do get keyless entry and go as standard across the range. You, of course, get privacy glass on the rear window as you'd expect for an SUV. Have a look at these cool black roof rails up the top there. And here's a little bit of styling that is a bit reminiscent of the KGM Torres, this kind of silver plane here. Now, that one had an entire blade on the side, which, to be honest, looked a bit crap, and it had a weirdly triangular roof. I'm glad this thing doesn't have that. This thing definitely looks a lot more conventional. But yeah, the Actyon has been, let's just say, inspired by the Range Rover Sport, but other manufacturers are doing that as well. For example, JQ with the J7 and the J5 SUVs. But here's a bit of a weird thing. So do you see how massive and wide this panel is at the rear? Unfortunately, that actually has an impact on visibility, but I'll get more into that on the interior of the vehicle. And apart from that, it looks like an SUV. So let's check out the arse on the KGM Actyon, and it's actually quite a nice arse. So you'll see these LED taillights there. They look pretty modern and sleek. You get the blacked out KGM badge there. No more Ssangyong to be found anywhere. You do get these cool kind of 6 LED lights there, which are your turn signals, with some more black plastic, of course, because it has to look aggressive. Actyon spelt out in quite cool writing, actually very reminiscent of the JQ J7 in my opinion. Of course, you do get a pretty sharp and aggressive spoiler at the rear, and a really, actually hyper aggressive diffuser down the bottom to split the air like a bloody action superhero. I guess that's where the name comes from. But let's check out what it can fit inside of itself. So you do get a powered tailgate as standard, which is awesome to see. Here is where KGM or Ssangyong or whatever you want to call them have got me frankly bewildered, because when we reviewed the KGM Torres, they quoted 703 liters of cargo space in the boot. And we said there's no bloody way. Now this car seems way bigger in terms of cargo space, but they've quoted 688 liters. So I don't know what to make of that. This seems like an absolutely massive cargo area. It's basically the size cargo area that you would get in a typical 3-row SUV. Absolutely massive. You do get a couple of storage bins on the side, as well as a little hook there and a 12-volt socky wacky. And you get your classic Ssangyong spare wheel of shame. It's a Kumio tire with what can only be described as an extremely Smurf-inspired spare wheel. And I guess the common theory behind this is that they make it extremely bright and embarrassing colored so that you replace it as quickly as possible. Now, of course, I can come around to the sides and fold down the second row, and that expands storage space up to 1,568 liters, which is absolutely massive. So in terms of practicality, bloody awesome, but it's what you'd expect from a 4.74 meter long SUV. But let's check out what's inside, because what's inside is what really counts. Righty, that was actually a decent thonk. Coming to the interior now of the KGM Actyon. First things first, I want to talk about the things I like, and then I'm going to talk about a few things I don't like, because yeah, there might be more of the latter. But let's get into that. So first things I like, I love this wood grain kind of material finish here, this ambient lighting. It looks really cool with this fake carbon fiber in the center console and up near the air vents here. I like this soft touch material up on the dash and even extending along the side of the doors and where you rest your elbow as well. I really love the quilted Nappa leather, what they call Nappa leather of these seats. They are very comfortable, and you do get power adjustment as standard across the range. Not only that, if I open up this climate menu here, we do actually get heated and ventilated seats at the front and heated seats in the rear. So that's awesome already to see at this price point. And storage space is pretty good as well. So opening up this glove box, you get a decent amount of space, plenty of space in this center console area, and the door bins are some of the biggest door bins in the midsize SUV segment. So awesome there. You also get this interesting kind of textured armrest here, and if I open that up, you do get a little bit of storage, but not too much. And connectivity is quite good with a couple of USB-C ports that are both 27-watt fast chargers at the front, as well as a 12-volt sucky wacky, and you do get a couple of cup holders here, which is good to see. Now let's talk about some of my, let's say, issues with this interior. They're nothing major, but they're just a couple of things that would make me hesitate to want to buy this car. First of all, Ssangyong steering wheels have always been strangely massive, and this is no exception. It's absolutely huge. You now get KGM in the center there, and weirdly it's hexagonal shapes, which to me just does not suit where I place my hands where I drive. I always place my hands at 9 and 3, and it just feels weird holding onto the corner of the hexagon. So not a fan of the steering wheel there. It is really nice leather though, and you do get heating on the steering wheel, which is a good touch, especially now in the middle of Melbourne winter. It's freezing cold. I don't mind the way that the buttons are laid out. However, unfortunately, the easiest volume controls to access are on the steering wheel, and they just feel a little bit cheap, if I'm being honest. If the passenger wants to change the volume, they have to swipe down on this infotainment system and do it manually through the top there, which is not great and not very intuitive in my opinion. You also get your cruise control buttons on the right side of the steering wheel. Everything's laid out nice and easy, pretty easy to understand, and you get a couple of extra buttons on the steering wheel. Now there is one favorite button which can be customized. I've got it set to climate controls just to make it easier to bring up the climate controls. And then on the right side we have an auto hold button. To me, this is a bit of a head scratcher. You would want these two buttons to be frequently used buttons, and I don't find myself using auto hold a whole hell of a lot, so I don't really understand why they would put it on the steering wheel there. Now, while storage space is decent, ergonomics and the layout just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So this kind of storage compartment here, which really you couldn't hold anything in, everything would just fly out as soon as you drive. And this section here, now while it is a wireless charger on the K60 spec, it's not a wireless charger on the K50 spec. So if you put your phone in there or anything, it'll just fall into the glove box, which to me is just not great design. They should have had a different implementation for this lower grade if it doesn't get the wireless charger. Not to mention, I'm not the biggest fan of this infotainment screen. Now the size is great. It's a 12.3-inch touchscreen. It actually looks pretty decent. It's quite legible even in bright daylight, but the software on it and the apps, they just feel really laggy and dated. And you know, if you compare it to the new facelifted version of the Kia Sportage, which now gets the new version of CCNC, I mean, this is a long way off that car. Now you can also access quick settings here. If I swipe down from the top, I can access my drive modes, which are sport, winter, and normal. Like I said, I can also change the volume up there, but if you swipe over from the right, yeah, and it takes about 20 swipes to get it right, you can access your quick climate control settings. However, if you're smart, you just set it to the star button, and then you can access the full screen climate menu. Now, another thing that's not great about the infotainment system is you only have wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, they both work fine. However, the Apple CarPlay has the dock on the left side rather than the right, which is the opposite to what I'm used to. But yeah, it would have been good to see it come with wireless Apple CarPlay, at least on the higher spec, which does get the wireless chargers, so not sure what's going on there. And while we're at it, I want to give a quick shout out to Samsung for sending us a couple of phones. This isn't paid at all. They sent it to us for about a month to use and test out Android Auto on a bunch of different cars. So thanks to Samsung. And we even used them to film heaps of videos while we're in China and India. So if you guys haven't watched them, you definitely should check them out. Camera on that thing is really damn good. Now, coming to the other display, which is the driver's display, it is another 12.3-inch unit. I actually do like the layout. It's quite intuitive. You can go through a bunch of different menus and check out your fuel consumption, your efficiency, for example. But unfortunately, there's no way to look at the lifetime fuel economy of this car, which I would have been very interested in. Instead, you can only see the amount of liters you've used since departure, or you can look at the live fuel efficiency of this current trip. You can't see it over a set period of time, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, the fuel efficiency isn't amazing anyway, but I'll get into that when I drive it. And one other issue I have, at least by the seat of my pants where I'm sitting now, is the lack of visibility due to that design of the C-pillar in the rear. I just can't see anything when I head check. And yes, you do get blind spot monitoring, which will give you a visual indicator, but I'm old fashioned. I still head check. And with that massive panel in my way, there is a massive blind spot in this car. So that's a real issue. So yeah, not great in terms of visibility, at least from a lane change perspective. Oh, and not to end on a sour note, but there is one other thing I just absolutely hate, which is this gear shifter here. For some reason, and it was the same in the KGM Ssangyong Torres, but when you put it into drive, and then suddenly you want to go into reverse, you have to press it twice because it goes through neutral. No other car manufacturer seems to have an issue with this, but yeah, Ssangyong, even if I'm in reverse, to put it into drive, I have to press it twice. And the amount of times I've put the thing in neutral, gone to accelerate and just revved the engine, it's quite infuriating. So yeah, if you're coming from any other car into this, expect that to happen quite a lot to you. So yeah, I really wish they would fix the design of that because it's just not great. But let's check out the rear seats. Alrighty guys, that was a decent thunk as well. Now, coming to the rear seats of the KGM Actyon. First things first, I noticed this really weird thing with the right side of this seat. I mean, it's just kind of lacking bolstering on that side of the seat. Actually, let me test this seat. Yeah, it's the same for this one as well. So not sure what's going on there. They need to fix the bolstering on the sides of these seats. But apart from that, the seats are awesome, super comfortable, just like up front. You get this nice quilted Napa leather upholstery. The craziest thing is, guys, these things have heating elements to them as well. In fact, I can control the heating up to 2 stages at the rear, which is just awesome to see. Materials back here are awesome as well. So you get nice soft touch material here on the door, nice soft material for your elbow to rest on. And you do get a couple of map pockets here, one big one small one for your phone or your vape or whatever you kids use these days. Get a couple of air vents here, a couple of USB-C ports as well, which do also come with 27-watt fast charging. Some more weirdly small and useless storage areas there, but whatever. You can also fold down this center armrest, get a nice leather unit with a couple of cup holders there. In terms of space, it's actually really good. So I get a decent amount of legroom, heaps of toe room, and heaps of headroom. So really, really good there. I also get a little tablet holder thing on the front headrest, which is pretty cool. And another cool feature, and this is super typical of Korean market cars, is we can control the front passenger seat from the rear here. So if you are sitting on the left side, you can just push this all the way forward and get plenty of legroom, as much as you need, which is a nice nifty feature if you are sitting in the back seats. You know what else is nifty? Say it with me. Car source buy. If you guys are in the market for any new car, whether it's a KGM Actyon or anything, you have to check out Car Source Buy. That's because we have a massive dealership network that's nationwide, consisting of thousands of dealers, and we've developed a system to help you get the best price on your next car without having to go through the hassle of going to a dealership and negotiating on price. The best part is it's completely obligation free and free for you as well, because we charge the dealers a fixed fee. The cost doesn't get passed on to you, the customer. So if that sounds good, and it definitely should, you can join the thousands of happy customers that we've already helped by heading to Car Source Buy. Like I said, obligation free, but there's literally no reason not to do it. Just like there's absolutely no reason not to launch this thing. Let's do it. Alrighty guys, time to launch the new KGM Actyon. Let me first swipe down, put this thing into sport mode. Of course, we're going to brake boost launch it. It's definitely not ideal conditions. It's raining a little bit today, but we're gonna see what this front wheel drive can do. This me. Brake boost it. Oh no. Oh no, it's not putting the power down well at all. Oh God, that 0 to 60 was not great. Come on, let's get to 100. Whew, okay, well, you know what? Actually slightly better than I was expecting. It actually beat the KGM Torres in terms of time. So 0 to 100 in 10.3 seconds. Yeah, it's not amazing. Let's drive this thing normally. Alrighty guys, driving the KGM Actyon, giving it lots of sauce. Actually, before I do that, let me swipe down here and change the drive mode to sport. So we do have 3 drive modes. It's either normal, winter, or sport. And let's give it a bit of sauce here. Yeah, look, this thing doesn't have the most power in the world. In fact, let's talk about it. So just like every other Ssangyong, or should I say KGM mid-sized SUV, of which there are now 3, you've got the Korando, the Torres, and now this, the Actyon. It is powered by the same 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder powertrain. And unfortunately, it's a bit lackluster. In the Torres, it makes 120 kilowatt of power, 280 Newton meters of torque, and they've given it a slight bump here for the Actyon because this is a slightly larger vehicle to 125 kilowatts of power, which is quite frankly not enough power for this segment of vehicle. And unlike the Torres, which is also available in all-wheel drive for the ultimate spec, this car is only available in front-wheel drive. Now, all of that power does get sent to the front wheels via a 6-speed Aisin automatic transmission, which is a decent enough transmission. However, I do find that it can be a little sluggish from the start-stop. Now, I have noticed since I switched it to sport mode, the steering, it's quite heavy. I'm not gonna lie. Now, that was one of our, I guess, critiques of the Torres as well, is the steering feels unnaturally weighted. I feel like they put a lot of artificial weighting into their steering wheels. So yeah, not the best feeling in the world, but let's take some corners here and see how this thing feels. Now, this is riding on some pretty decent rubber. Michelin Primacy Touring AEST tires, whatever that means. And it makes for a pretty comfortable ride. However, it is a little bit wet today, so I do have to be a bit careful driving around these corners, not take it too fast. So that is one of the aspects of this new KGM that has impressed us with both the Torres and now this car, is the ride quality is actually surprisingly good and compliant. Now, it's no secret that these cars are heavily inspired by the Kia Sportage, given that they are both Korean brands. Of course, Ssangyong, or should I say KGM now, as they've been fully renamed to in Australia recently, definitely have benchmarked this car off the Kia Sportage. You can see it in the layout of the interior and the way it drives. However, if I'm being quite honest, before we come up to Saucy Corner, it just doesn't drive as well as a Kia Sportage. Let's give it a bit of a launch. I'm still in sports mode. Let's see what we can do. I'm a bit scared, I'm not gonna lie. Tickle my little pickle. Let's go. Ooh, yeah. Oh God, spinning the wheels quite a bit there. Front wheel drive is not preferred on these kind of days. First hairpin. Oh no, traction control's kicking in. I'm understeering everywhere, and the steering is still so heavy. I just don't have any feeling. Oh God, oh no, understeering. Not the most impressive drive up Saucy Corner, if I'm being completely honest. So let's talk about some of the deficiencies of, well, I guess this powertrain as well as this car in general. Now, first I want to point out is, if you can see here, the fuel efficiency, we're averaging about 10.7 litres per 100 kilometers. For a 1.5 litre engine, that's really not great. Even if we're not talking about the hybrid Sportage, which, by the way, I think there might be a hybrid version of this car in development currently, but even if we're talking about the 1.6 litre turbo Sportage, you're still not going to be seeing fuel economy as high as that, which is it's a bit of a shame. Now, another area that I'm not overly impressed by, though I do think it is a marked improvement over the Torres, is the lane keeping and the semi-autonomous highway driving assist technologies in this vehicle. I think they've managed to get a better calibration on the radar than in the Torres, because that car would sometimes just have false positives and detect cars in front of you that were actually beside you, as well as losing track of the car in front of you and speeding up before suddenly slowing down. That was quite a poor system. This definitely doesn't do that, at least in my time. However, the lane centering still needs quite a bit of work. I'm on a pretty straight stretch of road here, but let's enable the lane centering, set the cruise control to 80 kilometers an hour, and let's see how it can hold the lane. And you can see I'm already veering to the left, already almost off the road there. It's holding it. Yeah, and now I'm moving back across to the right. So in a pretty straight stretch of road like that, you'd expect it to hold the center of the lane really well. However, it just doesn't do a very good job. So overall, a pretty comfortable car. However, it is lacking in a few areas. And considering the fact that it is now, you know, close to $50,000 drive away for this base K50 variant, yeah, I would kind of expect a little bit more if I'm being honest. I guess we'll have to get into my final thoughts. Alrighty guys, now final thoughts on the KGM Actyon. Do I think it's worth $47,000 for this here, the K50 spec? Now, while the design may polarize people, I actually quite like the look of this car, and it does definitely look unique. So I have to give KGM props on the design of this car. And I have to say that there are a few nice interior inclusions that you do get that make this thing quite compelling for the money. However, when you start to compare it against other Korean rivals, like for example the Kia Sportage, it becomes very difficult to justify this vehicle with this powertrain, this 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine, which is quite frankly extremely underwhelming for this vehicle. Now, there are rumors that there could be a hybrid on the way, which would make this a much more compelling car. However, it's not just the powertrain. There are a few quirky things on the interior that just need ironing out. The infotainment screen feels super laggy and dated compared to the competition, and they seriously need to get their act together when it comes to those semi-autonomous driving features on the highway. So if they can fix those issues, I think you'd have a pretty solid car on your hands. But of course, let me know in the comments below what you think of this car. Thanks to Samsung again for sending us the S25 Ultra. And of course, if you guys are interested in more tech reviews, you guys have to check out Tech Source. It's our brand new channel. We've already put up a couple of videos, so make sure you subscribe to that. And of course, if you guys are in the market for a new car like a KGM Actyon or any other brand, make sure you head to Car Source Buy. Our team will get you the best price possible on any new car. Ciao for now.